Tim Tame.
Yes.
What's the topic?
Bringing it home today. So a couple weeks ago, my topic was proposals and how happy proposals make me.
You proposed to Gia. You
Did not do
salty
it.
dog. I didn't even hear.
No. So my friends proposed, and that was the spawning of all that topic and stuff. But that led me to being really excited about proposals in a way that I had been in a long time.
Sure.
Went down a rabbit hole of watching a whole bunch of proposal videos, which are one of my favorite things. Because again, like I said in that topic, it just makes me happy.
Of course.
Last night, I ended up doing even more of that. And that led to finding videos of like army people coming back.
Oh, sure.
And to their families.
Yeah.
Or which then led to videos of deaf people hearing for the first time.
Yeah.
And just things like that. And now I'm not really sure what this topic is.
Sure.
But those videos make me feel a certain way that is so unique, you know, but I love that it's the same feeling, you know.
Sure.
It's this feeling of just happiness and joy for other people. Like it's just raw being happy for someone else, you know,
Yeah.
and like you kind of feel that emotion through them. And I want to know, like, is there other situations that you guys can think of that are in that vein or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of bring it up, I guess, to your topic before we jump off, I guess, into that direction, because I thought we were going a different way with it when you were just talking. Is it reminds me of how spoiled we are now compared to, and stick with me, the movie Dogma. Because you remember in Dogma, the whole thing is that Ben and Matt Damon are angels grounded on Earth, right? And Ben's whole thing was that he was a watcher, and so he goes to the airport all the time to watch people get reunited and like see each other when they come off the plane and be like, have that moment of pure joy and happiness to see each other again. And how that obviously there was no 9/11 had happened, so you could walk up to the gates and just sit there and watch people get reunited that way. But also the fact of like, the internet wasn't in a place where, these moments we were sharing so much with everybody all the time that you would be able to just go and for hours watch these kind of things and then be like, well, what about this? Or what about a deaf person here? What about that? Like, it's such a weird thing of that used to be rare. You'd have to be at the airport for something else and then you'd see a couple reunited or whatever, a mom and son reunited, and you'd be like, oh, what a sweet moment. And now you just sit there and eat popcorn at your laptop and watch it.
Yeah. Well, another one that I was thinking about, you saying that reminded me of Reddit. Somewhere it was on the front page a couple weeks ago of, it was a GIF of some guy at a soccer game and like some little kid at a soccer game, and one of the players came by and like was walking, stopped, looked over at the kid, went up to him, gave him like a slap, and then walked off. And that kid like just blew up. And then that led to someone responding to some hockey player doing something similar, like walking over and giving him a stick, and then a bunch of basketball players and a bunch of the hockey stick.
I know.
It was just like, it's so crazy that like, I just felt so good for those kids.
Yeah, you get it, because I mean, I think we all have those moments in our lives that you remember, right? Another one that got me choked up last night, 2 nights ago, was it was on Reddit as well, and it was a little boy had just finished his baseball game or whatever, and then went to the car, and I guess the dad had been pretending he forgot about his birthday or whatever, or couldn't afford the gift or whatever, and then like, I think he was pretending that he forgot about the birthday, and the kid was getting all sad about it or whatever, and like being all cold shoulder about it or whatever, and then he made him go to get his bag from the back of the car and open up, and of course the bat was there, and the kid broke down, and then the dad broke down, and it's like one of those moments of like, this such a personal moment that clearly is going to leave such an impact on the child, let alone the dad, you know what I mean? And like, you share it, there it is, you find it in 2 seconds. Good job, Kev. You want to put that in there?
I'm even looking for it.
I'm now I'm big time Redditor. I see everything ahead of time. I don't really see everything ahead of time. Yeah. But, you know what I mean? I see a lot of stuff early. But I mean, like, you know, there's a moment you share of like, I remember, you know, when my parents hid my Christmas gifts or whatever, and like the one thing I really wanted, I didn't get. And then coming back up the stairs, when they sent me downstairs to get something stupid, you run into that gift. You're like, oh my God. Yeah. And now you get to be a part of it and find it and see all that stuff. Yeah. And I mean, you know, YouTube and all that stuff, I think kind of in a much bigger way incentivizes people to think in that way. Yeah. For example, there was the Disneyland video of the girl there was a little girl, she was like probably 5 with a little sister. And then the parents are like, told her that, oh, we're not going to school today. And she's like, oh, like they were driving to school. Have you seen it? Do you know what I'm talking about, Colin?
I think so. I mean, I've seen videos like this.
So it's a family driving this girl, and they're like, oh, we're going to school. And then they're like, oh, we're not really going to school. She's like, what? Really? We're not going to school? It's like, no, guess where we're going? They're like, oh, we're going to Disneyland. Yeah. And she just like burst into tears, and the little sister's just like, the fuck's going on? Yeah. But I just love that. I just love the pure, it's just to make her happy. Yeah, you know, it's just so awesome that they captured that moment. And then they made a sequel video a couple of years later, and the girl's like, it's happening again. did. And it's so funny. Like, I just love that there's, there's things that can make people that happy, and that those moments of happiness make other people happy. It's so cool.
It's infectious almost. I agree. Now, for me, I do not prowl the internet looking for these kinds of videos very often. So almost all of mine are things I've observed through real life. Is this contextually relevant or not? I want to make sure.
This is relevant.
Okay, good. So
the motion carries.
I used to when I was in Japan, I taught, and a lot of what I did was work as a kindergarten teacher. So a lot of tiny Japanese children used me as a jungle gym for like 3 years. It was pretty wonderful. I mean, to a lot of them in Japan, there are not very many people of my height. There are very few bald men. There are very few people with beards, and there are very few fat people. So to a group of Japanese 4-year-olds, I was the tallest, fattest, baldest, hairiest thing they had ever seen. I barely looked.
I want to climb it.
Yeah, exactly. That was the response. I barely looked human, and they would take you down. I mean, 30 Japanese kindergartners can take you down.
How many did it take to take you down?
It does not 30. Take a lot.
Shadow of the Colossus.
It is. It's exactly like that. They would they'd wrap around your legs, and then they'd just keep holding on, and then they'd grab your arm so you'd lose your balance, and then a couple of them inevitably would try to stick their fingers up your butt, which is a Japanese thing called kancho, where they try to stick your fingers in your butthole, which is kind
Japanese.
of fun. It's a very interesting cultural phenomenon. But yeah, they take you down and then jump on top of you. Anyway, kids having impromptu joy at a moment, particularly at a kid like Cookie Monster moment. You know how whenever Cookie Monster sees a cookie, it's like the first time he ever saw a cookie? And he's just like, cookie, nom, nom, nom. And he's just so happy. That's what those moments are like for kids. And being near that is infectious. If you come to mind for me immediately, anytime a kid goes off a diving board at a pool and screams like cannonball, there's and just that look when they freeze in midair, and there's that grin from ear to ear, and they're about to land right next to their sister and just, and probably give her a concussion. But it's beautiful for that moment that it's happening. This is this wonderful moment. Again, in Japan, I remember I was standing at an ice cream counter, like in a restaurant, and I heard this little singing next to me. Matcha is Japanese green tea, and they have green tea ice cream there. I'm standing there, and I hear this little song, and I look down, and there's a tiny, probably 3-year-old girl just peeking over the ice cream counter, just getting barely. She's just going, she's going, matcha, matcha, matcha cream, matcha, matcha, matcha cream. They're just singing it because she's about to get ice cream, and she is singing the joy of the ice cream. And those kind of moments. I was in a waiting room at a courthouse of all things a few weeks ago, and I was playing Mega Man Legacy Collection, where you can play Colin Moriarty's level on my 3DS. This kid sitting next to me was kind of looking over and watching me play. And his mom was there, and so he kept looking over, and I was just looking at her, and I was like, is this okay? And she's like, yeah. So I handed it over. He had never played Mega Man. He's sitting there playing Mega Man 2. And at first, he's trying to touch the touchscreen. Then he figures the controls out. Really little kid. But I watched him, and he ran forward and fell in a hole. And he ran forward and fell in a hole. And then I showed him how to jump, and he ran forward and jumped at the hole. But then he ran over and jumped over the hole. And then he jumped over the hole and ran into an enemy and died. And he kept restarting. I showed him how to... And they jumped over and shot the enemy. And then he moved forward and jumped over. And you watched him learning and getting far. And he just, that compulsive, bam, restart. And it was like looking through some kind of tachyon camera into my past and seeing that unabashed joy of discovery. This kid was discovering 2D platforming for the first time in his life, and he couldn't get enough. And we were in that room for...
I hear you, kid.
Yeah, it was great.
And he handed the 3DS set back and said, it's no Sonic.
No, his joy came over his face. For like 2 hours, he was in there until it was time for he and his mom to leave. And it was wonderful to watch. Just those kinds of moments. And I also really like anywhere I am, something that just... If I see someone reading anywhere, of any age, in any context, I get happy. Watching people read, I'm just like, whatever you're doing right now is making you better. It's just inspiring. So those are the ones that come to mind for me, Tim. There's an Instagram called Hot Dudes Reading. Highly recommend. I have seen Hot Dudes Reading. It's good. Yeah, actually, I might be on. Oh yeah, that's right. Team Fat. Patent pending.
What comes to mind for me for some reason is sporting events. Especially going to sporting events live. So Hockey games and football games specifically are amazing events to go to live, especially with the ups and downs of the team and depending on the stakes of the game. That's what's so fascinating. I love sports, and that's what's so fascinating about it is that in week 1 in the NFL, everyone is 0-0, right? 0-0, right?
Yeah.
No one, like everyone can win. You're not going to, but everyone can win. And then by the end of the season, the stakes are so high because people are trying to get into the playoffs, and then the playoff games are like fucking zany, man. I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget going to the Islanders Maple Leafs game in 2002 in the playoffs, the Sean Bates penalty shot game, which is a fucking famous hockey game that I just had, like, famous not only in Islanders lore but in hockey lore, that I happened to be at, and that place went off. I have never, ever, ever been in a scene like that in my life. I was like, I'll never forget it. It was awesome. It was a penalty. There was a penalty shot, and we won the game, and it was like fucking bedlam, dude. It was so awesome. I remember leaving the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, and people were fucking going crazy in the parking lot and beeping their horns and just laying on their horns all the way down the Long Island Expressway. People were like going insane, and I was like, this is so cool. But I've also been in that arena when it's half full, you know, and they're losing 6-0 in the second period, and people are just leaving, you know, and I still say the most joy I get out of going to an NFL game or going to a Jets game is when we're winning and the games are going really great and we score a touchdown and this place. The fucking best. But when the Jets lose or they're playing terribly, that only happens once in the game in the very beginning. Right? But when you're winning...
There's been a lot of those Sundays.
And I've been to those kinds of games.
Yeah.
But when everyone's doing the Jets chant and everyone's like smiling in elation, and then there's like 80,000 people doing that in unison, and the team's playing great and they're winning and everyone's in a great mood, it's like, it's joyous. It's fucking awesome. The ups and downs of sports, especially when you are a fan of notoriously bad or typically bad teams like I am with football and hockey, you really like remember those moments. Like I remember for some strange reason it was their game you couldn't go to because you got sick or whatever, but out of all the football games I've been to and Jets games I've been to, I remember that game really well. But it was a meaningless game. It was a Jets Colts game. It was one of Andrew Luck's first games, and the Jets fucking destroyed them. And I remember specifically Tim Tebow fake punt run for like 25 yards. I'm like, what the fuck? And the place was just going nuts. The game was like totally meaningless in the grand scheme of things. We were like 6-10 that year or something like that. But I was like, that was so fun. And I remember that moment. I'll always remember that moment. And I remember those moments going to Yankee games specifically with my dad when the Yankees were bad. And then when because the Yankees were bad when I was like a young kid. And then when they were good and how different that was. And I also remember being on enemy territory. I remember watching the way other fan bases celebrate and the way other fan bases get into games or the way they lose. I've been to Yankee Red Sox games at Fenway Park. It's a very hostile place for a Yankee fan, you know, and a very, very hostile place for a Yankee fan. And I've seen the Yankees destroy the Red Sox there, and I've seen the Yankees get killed there. And the elation and the bedlam that happens there. And I've been to Patriots Jets games in New England. Much nicer fan base than the Red Sox fan base, but a lot of crossover, obviously. And the way they celebrate. I like going to those different, I like everyone's different traditions. I like the 12th man in the Seattle. I like our Jets chant. I like the Eagles song. I like the Bears song. Like all these different things that everyone has and how it brings them joy, and it's a tradition and it's a ritual, and it's been going on for some of these teams for 60 or 80 years. It's pretty cool. You know?
I mean, what you're talking about is like the grand scale thing of the reunion of people, right? It's a shared experience between human beings, and that is something special to be in those arenas and have everyone on the same page as far as what's happening. And those are some of the most not even necessarily in the arena, because I the two that jump to my mind, right, are at Mizzou. You know, every time Kansas came through for basketball, they beat the shit out of us, or beat us usually on some heartbreaking 3-pointer thing at the end or whatever. In my senior year, my final game as an Antler, we're all there in the dresses with our hair and mohawks, like, because that's what you do when Kansas comes to town. And I remember 2 minutes in when it looked like we were gonna win, and it started to set in. This is my final time being an Antler, and I started tearing up. And I was like, oh no. And then when we finally won, the first time in 4 years I ever saw Mizzou beat Kansas in person, and everyone rushed the floor, and not the Antlers, because we're trying to make a point that we're not that bad. And like I just burst into tears and turned around and hugged my other graduating senior, Jason, and he just held me while I weeped. I weeped. And then the other one being when in Missouri as well, but after college, watching the Bears advance to the Super Bowl and like popping champagne and crying then and calling all my friends in Chicago to talk about it. Like, can you fucking believe this is happening finally? Because it's been forever. Our entire lives, they've been terrible. Our entire cognizant lives.
Yeah, it's funny with like sports, whether collegiate or professional, even the sports we played as a kid. Like I have a lot of memories of playing hockey, like ups and downs, really bad moments and really good moments. It's funny, like Tim actually bore witness to one of the strange sporting moments of my life, and is the only person that saw it, which was when the Islanders advanced in the playoffs for the first time since I was 8. So they got to the second round of the playoffs. I actually started hysterically crying.
Oh wow!
I couldn't help it. I was like overcome, like with emotion, with joy, and like couldn't believe it. Like, I couldn't believe it.
That's kind of the topic that I was really trying to get at, is the fact that so was I. You know, just having you next to me, like, I don't care about hockey at all, but I cared that you were so happy about this thing. And like, that's so crazy, and it's infectious, you know? Like, I understand, because so many of my friends, like my friend James is the biggest SF Giants fan in the fucking world. And knowing him, seeing him be a fan for so long, and then for them to win, like, it was just crazy. It's like, I felt this like celebration within myself for him, you know, just seeing him that happy was so crazy. And like going back to it, like video games do that to me so much. Like thinking about the Twilight Princess reveal, like when they first announced it, like there's the video that, if you haven't seen this, YouTube right now, Twilight Princess reaction. It's every couple months I'll go back and watch that just to like, for that feeling of wishing I was in that room, but yet feeling I was in that room anyways. People were so excited that shit happened. And there's other things like the Street Fighter, the Justin Wong versus Daigo match where, you know, the moment happened, and it's just like, man, I don't understand what's happening, but I'm overcome with emotion from all of this. And what's really funny, to get super meta with it, watching my reaction to Crash Bandicoot makes me happy about me being happy, you know? But there's just something about like, I know how pure that was. Like, I know how
you weren't doing it for effect. The girl crying when she hears for the first time, or the child when they put the glasses on and she sees for the first time. Like, I mean, like, it's not, there's no bullshitting around about it.
Yeah. And I think that there's something really powerful about it. And I wonder if there's like a name for that, but whatever it is, I think it's
powerful emotion time.
It's a beautiful thing.
Euphoria.
Euphoria. Maybe it is.
I think it's good.
You know? But it's so interesting to me that it results in tears so often, you know?
Yeah.
It results in just this, like, your body needs to react in some way, right? Yeah. Like, you can see if you look in the video, I felt like I was about to cry during the Crash Bandicoot thing.
Well, I mean, what's the line between laughter and tears? They're both signals from our body they're telling something is wrong, something is different, something is uncanny in this moment, something exceptional and extraordinary and alarming is happening. Laughter and tears are both the responses we have to those things. I think it's utterly appropriate that we allow ourselves to be overcome by wonder or beauty or euphoria, the word used there. I think it's one of the best things about being human. If we didn't have those moments to look forward to, why would we bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Game Over Greggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you get the shows early, get a whole bunch of exclusive perks, and get some goodies. If you have no bucks to toss our way there, head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where you get the show topic by topic, day by day, until we post the entire thing as one big video and MP3 the following Friday. Of course, while you're on that patreon.com site, go over and check out patreon.com/JaredPetty. Your new podcast is started up now.
Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me on. It was an honor to be here. You guys make great
thank
stuff.
you so much for coming. Remember, it's pocketsful of soup.
Yeah, okay, Pockets Full of Soup. That's the name of the show.
Got it. And it's up now. You can get it for free if you don't want to give him money.
Yeah.
You should probably give him money if you got it. I'm going to give him money.
Support this man.
Until next time. It's been our pleasure to serve you.